Hi everyone, Teddy Baldessar with teddybaldessar.com. In this video, we're looking at a watch from Hamilton with the Hamilton Boulton Mechanical. So in this video and on this channel, we cover watches available for purchase on our website at teddybaldessar.com as a full authorized dealer of all the brands that we carry. So in this video, we'll do an overview of this timepiece, look at some final points of consideration if you're looking in the direction of this watch. Also in the description, if you have any further questions, definitely recommend checking that out. The link to the product page, as well as a place to purchase the watch, and also book a time with one of our dedicated watch specialists as well. But guys, let's jump into the video, take a closer look at this watch. As long-standing brands move forward, oftentimes they look back in their historical catalog for inspiration. By the 1940s, Hamilton was an iconic American watch company, paving the way for early railroad pocket watches through the 1910s and the 1920s, while intuitively navigating the transition to wrist-worn timepieces in the 1930s and 40s. But in 1940, Hamilton released the Boulton. It was a rectangular tank watch with Art Deco designs that really were emblematic of the era. With much of the fascination and fanfare going towards the Hamilton khaki collection, it's always nice to be able to cover an additional watch outside of that from Hamilton's collection, which I think overall outside of those pieces is widely underrated. But recently Hamilton reintroduced this line within their collection, a mechanical version of the Boulton that we're going to be taking a closer look at today. So looking closer at this Hamilton Boulton in terms of measurements here, so Hamilton classifies this as 34.5 by 38 millimeters. Now, that doesn't tell the full story at all, and honestly I find it's quite misleading when you're looking at this watch because it makes it seem like it's a very small watch. What that is specifying is the horizontal measurement diameter across that case at different points throughout the case. That does not actually denote the actual lug-to-lug dimension. So with that in mind, the actual lug-to-lug of this watch is 51.6 millimeters in total length and is 11.8 millimeters thick with a slightly curved case that will sit on the wrist comfortably. So keeping that in mind, despite the dimensions proposed by Hamilton, this is a larger watch, no question about it. If you had to give a circular case equivalent, I would say it's wearing closer to that of a 41 to 42 millimeter case. So not the smallest watch, especially for one of this overall style. Now between the lugs in this piece, we do have a lug width of 22 millimeters. It does taper down to 20 millimeters at that signed Hamilton pin buckle. The strap here is a genuine leather, black kind of alligator grain strap that has a more matte tone to its actual finish. Looks good, feels pretty well on the wrist. It's going to take some time to break in, but I think the design of the strap actually pairs quite well with the design of the case and the dial. The case finish is quite straightforward in terms of its execution, polishing all around. The transitions between surfaces are not as stark and sharp compared to some other case finishes out there, but that's really more of the tonneau case style more than anything else, and really kind of just leaning into that element of design. At the 3 o'clock position, we have a double knurl crown here that's easy to rotate and operates in typical fashion as well. First position, you can hand wind the movement, and that is incredibly useful in this case because this is a hand wound movement, which we'll get to a little bit later. And at that farthest pulled out point, that second position, you can adjust the hands as well as stop the second hand in the process, so hacking seconds here. Now looking closer at this dial, we have a straightforward approach if you are familiar with watches of this style. Casting along the outside, you have a railway minute track that is going to allow us to view that running seconds and be able to tell the minute. Also going along with that, right on the inside of that are very bold Roman numeral markings on the piece. Now they are also going to be warped at those 4 corners and creating a rectangular periphery with the endpoints of the inner part of those markings, creating a window for that central dial surface with that Hamilton logo at the 12 o'clock with Hamilton script underneath. And the only other writing here is mechanical at the 6 o'clock position. At the center, we have an alpha style handset at the center with that hour hand, blued as well, and then also a pointed tip second hand that is a little bit shorter than normal, not reaching the farthest point of that minute track along the outside. The contrast on the dial is quite good. The bold markings of those Roman numerals really do pop out in that white silver dial surface. Flipping the watch over, we have a solid case back with a simple large Hamilton logo at the top and some reference information towards the bottom. In between, there is a space, albeit a little small, for any engraving, but beneath the case back is Hamilton's H50 manual caliber movement. So if you're familiar with Hamilton, you are probably familiar with the H50 movement. It is basically the reworked version of the ETA 28012 manual wound caliber from ETA, and really the main reason behind and selling proposition behind this movement is going to be its power reserve. Now that typical ETA base, and what's happening here is a member of the Swatch group, you have some perks, and one of those perks is going to have first dibs on a lot of their movement and technologies, and when you're dealing with the price range in which this watch is occupying, this is a very compelling package. In terms of how they're taking this power reserve and extending it to 80 hours, what they're doing is dropping the beat frequency from 28,800 vibrations per hour to 21,600 vibrations per hour to maximize the energy stored in that mainspring. So this is not a dual barrel design, this is a single barrel, and that's just the way of them bypassing this and doing a very good job and getting some great utility out of it. Hand winding the movement is very easy with the help of that crown. In this particular case, it makes a ton of sense to have a manual wound movement given the 1940s inspiration of this watch. In terms of a high-level overview of the movement, 21,600 vibrations per hour, 3 hertz in terms of the beat rate, hacking and hand winding, so hacking stopping the second hand when you pull out the crown to the farthest position, and that power reserve of 80 hours. So now to take a closer look and final recap of the Boulton. Now, in terms of the design, I think it's pretty straightforward in terms of what it is going after. It's going after that early 20th century approach to a dress watch, to no-style case, railway minute track, Roman numerals. We've seen it before. I think this is a great reinterpretation of that style and pulling it from Hamilton's archive. In terms of the design and the execution of the movement, there's nothing bad to say here. I think the difficulty of this one is the fact that if you are going for a watch of this design and style, you probably want some vintage proportions to go along with it, and you don't have that with this watch in terms of its delivery of its case. This is a larger watch, 41 to 42 millimeters in terms of its actual wear if you're thinking about a circular case equivalent. So that's something to keep in mind, extended lug to lug distance. But if you are somebody with a larger wrist, medium to larger size wrist, and you want something of this style, this should be on a short list because 80-hour power reserve, you're talking under $1,000. You're getting the typical value proposition that comes from Hamilton. If your wrist can make this one work and you like this style, this is kind of a bit more of a dying breed, unfortunately, for people that like this style of dress watch. But no question, this is very good value in the range and the type of watch that it's occupying. All right, guys, well, thank you again so much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. That does really help out the channel, and do appreciate that as well. Also, if you're in the market for this watch, link in the description down below to purchase the watch at teddybaldessar.com. We're a full authorized dealer of all the brands that we carry, quick and fast fulfillment, dedicated customer support based here in the United States. Also have a full factory warranty for all the brands that we carry, so if something goes wrong, you're completely covered. We also offer price match, so if you see one of our watches for cheaper at another authorized dealer, just fill out that form and then we'll get in contact with you. And then finally, 9 out of every $10 that we generate from our store goes right back into the content that we're creating on our main channel as well as here. But guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.